Okay, so welcome to another episode of the Authentic Edge podcast, and today we're talking about quad activation and development. So this is an interesting one. I love it at the moment. I love the quads, and I've been contemplating it and making a few alterations in my own program for the last year or so, or year or two. And I think it's a bit misunderstood. I'm loving it at the moment because it's so important. I mean, think about what do they say, thigh mass in general, and strength is associated with longevity. It's one of the biggest markers for not dying, so pretty important. And in the current culture of like peach day, everybody, especially girls, are interested in glute development and a lot into the posterior chain, and even in the physio world, with postural alignments around the pelvis and lower back. It's about a lot of it's to do with core strengthening and glute activation, right? So we're focused on that posterior activation, and I think quads are a little bit left out of the picture, and I think they're awesome. Another thing, or one reason why I think they're probably neglected a little bit, is because it's hard work. So once again, skipping leg day. But I think at least you want to incorporate a quad focused component of a leg workout. If it's something, if you go to the gym, I think a lot of the exercises we'll be doing a combination of posterior and anterior, but there's a lot of exercises that are actually more focused towards posterior in the lower body. So and an activation of the quads is a different sensation, different feeling. And so if you don't have strict form, and if you're not aware of where to pull from, then you're probably not going to get the best quad activation. So if you're doing a workout and you are leaving and you're not pulling up sore the next day in the quads, then you haven't really worked the quads very much. And that's a generalization. It depends on your conditioning and all sorts of other things. But if you never get any soreness in your quads and you never feel like they're working, then they're probably not. And so if you want to get activation and development in the thighs or the quads, then you probably need to tweak your technique and your exercise selection. So in this podcast, we're just going to discuss a few different exercises and just generally have a chat about the awesome quads. So talk about my experiences. The back squat is an interesting one. I feel like you build up activation over a period of time. So when you do any exercise, you can switch muscle groups on or off depending on how you're concentrating on it and where you're trying to pull from. And if you have the engram, if you have the neural pathway set up, then it becomes easy and it becomes active and it becomes just common sense for your muscles to activate in that way. So it is training and it's repetition. But with the back squat, I feel like most of the back squatting we do is a conventional low bar back squat. So powerlifters use this. It's more of a powerlifting squat, and it will be recruiting from both the front and the back, the muscles in the front and the back, but it's probably mainly in the posterior. So if you are tipping forward and you are essentially, and you have spread wider legs, and you are your nose is coming forward and diving down and your bum is raising up, then that is more of a tipping motion, and it's similar to a deadlift. And so it's kind of the same thing. Like if you're going to do a deadlift, do a deadlift. But if you're going to do a squat and focus on the quads, if you want the quads to work, then you've got to do something different. So the biggest cues for the back squat would be you want to stay up and down in your cylinder. So I think thinking about one good cue is keep your eyes up. Like if you want to work the quads better in a squat, first of all, you want to put the bar higher up and keep your upper body upright. And then thinking eyes up, so you don't want to, because where your eyes lead, your body follows. So we have a tendency to do that. So keeping the eyes up is going to keep your upper body upright, chest up, and then just not tipping. So just keeping the upper body in a similar position and just dropping down. So another cue would be the nose doesn't move forward, the nose moves down. So the head in the same position, but just downwards. So up and down, straight up and down in the cylinder is the action that we want to have if we want to target the quads. And so you're probably going to have to go a lot lighter on this exercise. I mean, and that's why the powerlifters use that more of a conventional deadlift where they're doing a little bit of tipping over and recruiting the posterior chain, because there's a lot of muscles there. So we'll be able to be stronger. We'll be able to pull more, push more, more weight. So that's the goal of powerlifting. You want to get the biggest number. So yeah, you're gonna have to reduce the weight, especially at the start. Like if you don't know how to recruit from your quads and you don't really get much of a feeling there, you go right back and choose a weight that's like half of your normal working weight, and just try and get the activation. So nice and slow and just dropping into that cylinder. So that would be one of the best exercises. So it's a little bit tricky to get that switched on, but once you do, you can really start to feel it, and it's a really good exercise for the quads. Obviously, very functional. But as I said, I feel like the back squat, the low bar conventional back squat where we tip down, is kind of taken the place of a more upright quad centric squat. So bringing it back the quads. The other exercises, all of these exercises are kind of the same principle. Speaking of that kind of cylinder, and so that's the movement has to be the same. So we want to stay in that cylinder and drive up and down. So leg driving through the legs, as opposed to pushing, like hip thrusting through. Like when you're doing a hip thrust, you'd be doing that hip thrust motion, driving from the glutes and maybe the hamstrings as well. So we don't want to have that feeling. We want to have the feeling of keeping the glutes dormant, and we just drive through the legs. So we're just keeping the upper body in a similar position and just driving through the legs. So you do need some mobility, but that will come. So maybe just dropping into the position, keeping your upper body upright and dropping into the position that you can, holding that upper body relatively in a similar body angle, and just dropping down. So that's true whether it's like a goblet squat, like holding a dumbbell in front. That's a good exercise, because it forces you to kind of stay upright. Another really good one is a hack squat. I've loved the hack squat. It is great because you can go all the way down to like full tension, so where your calves hit your hamstrings, and it's a really nice stretch. It's a full range of the quads. You're going through the full range. So, and it's very easy also to on the hack squat. And the hack squat, by the way, is one where you put the pads on your shoulders, so the weight's going through your shoulders. It's like a leg press, but it's the inverse, so the opposite of that. So you're pressing the weight through your shoulders, and the plate, the foot plate is on the bottom. So your feet, you don't want to go too high. So, and that's a problem with any of those leg pressy type movements, is that sometimes when the legs get too far forward, get too high up, then we can't be in that cylinder, and then we're kind of sitting back in this weird position. It's unnatural. We're not really able to recruit the quads very much. And it's a bit of a cheat. It's definitely a cheat, because we can lift a lot of weight like that. And you see amateurs, it's one thing I see a lot of amateurs loading up, a lot of weak people loading up on the leg press, and they're loading it up with heaps of weight, like 200 kilos, whatever, 5 plates on each side, and you know, maybe not going through the full ranges, and not going to full depth, or the foot position is way up the top, so you're kind of sinking back into this very hamstring focused. You know, if you can imagine your feet creeping up forward. So I would encourage any type of leg press to keep the feet down in a reasonable position. Yeah, so that's another thing with all the feet positioning. It's more of, obviously it can vary depending on your own mechanics, biomechanics, but whether it's a squat or you're on a leg press or anything, you want to keep your feet at relatively neutral position, as in kind of shoulder width, and just you can step in and find what feels natural. So if you kind of jump up and land, maybe the natural landing position would be a good foot position. In any case, you want to be in a cylinder, so not too far forward, not too wide. You bring in too much adductors. You can rotate them out a little bit to what feels comfortable. The more you rotate them out, the more you externally rotate the hips and see your feet come out, you will be recruiting more of the inside of your thigh. So you'll be hitting vastus medialis and more of the adductors. And so as you close those toes into and go pigeon-toed, then you're going to be recruiting more of the outer heads, vastus lat in the quads, and yeah, so it's more of the outside in general. But yeah, I think it's probably good, especially at the start, to just kind of get a bit of a balanced and neutral position. Don't go too far out or in, and just start to stay in that cylinder. So mostly the foot position is just so that you get your body in that axial plane, so you can drive straight up and down. So that's the main thing. So yeah, goblet squats, hack squats are good. Back squats are good. If you want it quad centric, you want to have the bar higher on the back and keep the upper body up, more upright. The other good exercise that I really like, I see a lot of people, especially sports people, like athletes, doing a lot of the box squatting, and so they're essentially doing half the motion, or they're only doing the top half, and that can be useful. I think the powerlifters would say, don't get stuck in the hole at the bottom of the lift in the squat. So that's true. You've got some elastic energy, and there may not be as efficient if you're getting stuck down the bottom and driving it. I think it is good to do that full range, and you're probably getting something, a lot of good things out of it, and getting some development there. But it may also be good, especially if you are in sport, to leverage the higher end, because you are replicating the jumping movements that you're doing in the sport. So we don't jump, like if we're playing a game of footy, we're not going to jump from fully flexed positions. So we're not going to go to a squat position like we would on the ground with our arse to grass. We wouldn't go down that far. It's more of the top end, and you can lift a lot more. So you often see AFL players and rugby players doing some in sports like that, doing the higher end, the box squat, so you can load up a little bit more I actually like burning out on that exercise, just the back squat with, I guess it's a bit of a drop set, or not even. I just keep the same weight, and when I can't go to full depth, I'll just do the top half and do, 5, 10, whatever I can at the half rep range. So just the top half of the movement, keeping the tension on. So that speaks to another general concept of like contact and how to keep the muscle engaged. And a lot of the time there is a sweet spot in the range. So partial reps can actually be really good, because obviously you do want to work through full ranges as well, but if there's usually part of the movement which is the hardest part. So if you focus on that and get a real where you've got the real contact point where you're doing most of the work, and if you can stay in that range and work through that range, then you're just getting more out of it. So that's why you see that. And the other exercise is the other exercise I wanted to talk about was the Smith machine. So the Smith machine, it's a hated machine and people don't like it. Purists don't like it because it's an impoverished version of the normal squat that you can do, and I don't think that's true. I think it's useful. I wouldn't use it to replace a compound movement like a squat. Like I wouldn't delete it for those ones, but I find, especially if let's say you're injured or you're just your knees aren't in the best condition, or so you can't get full ranges, your mobility isn't as good. It's a really good one for partial reps, and because you can just use that hook at different heights. It's a lot safer. So and that is a really good one for partial reps as well. So if you just want to pump out some partial reps, or just go halfway down. So if you maybe as I was saying, if you're injured and it hurts your knees, or you're not that confident, then maybe you just want to get on the Smith machine and go to a height that feels comfortable for you, and just go there. And as I was saying, it is a bit of a box squat anyway. That's what a lot of athletes are doing anyway. So you can stay in that working range higher to the top of the movement, and then as you develop strength, you'll feel more comfortable to go further down, and as you do the movements, you'll naturally get more mobility. So you'll find over consecutive workouts, consecutive weeks, you'll drop further and further in. So it feels a little bit more protected. It's a little bit safer, so it's a good introductory, or if you want to do partial reps and play around on it, I like it. So I guess that is the main exercises I've got in my mind, and I think it is underutilized, and I think it's really important, and it's quite hard, it's quite tiring, and I think that's why people avoid it. So I would encourage people to just have a look at your program, just reflect on your program and think about, okay, am I getting any quad soreness? Am I feeling anything down there? And if you are doing like one leg workout a week, and you're doing hip thrusts, and you're doing like a posterior focused, and you're doing, so on the posterior chain, that would be more like barbell hip thrusts. The hip thrusts, that's where you're hitting the glutes. I remember saying a decade ago that they're going to be really popular, and now all the girls are doing them. It's because they want the glute development. The cable glute kickback, conventional squat with the tipping action, the deadlifts, this is all posterior chain movements. And then you've got Bulgarian split squats and lunges. Any lunging movement is kind of doing both. So depending on how you're doing it, foot placement and just concentration. So yeah, just I would encourage people to just have a look at their program and reflect on, are they getting any soreness in the quads, and are they have they allocated some exercises in their leg workouts. If you're doing one leg workout a week, you definitely want to put some of the more quad centric exercises in there. I think even if you are focused on your glutes, it's good to have balance. Good to have balance. Starts to look weird, and your lifts will start to be weird as well if you're unbalanced. So it's good to have strong legs. So, and if you can, one good split that I see and I do sometimes is the two leg workouts a week, and then you can split back to front, so you can have a quad day, a quad focused day, and then a posterior chain day, so glutes hamstrings day, and that's a way to do it. But yeah, I'd say it is associated with longevity. The thigh mass and longevity in general health is strongly correlated, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, but it's just good. They're just good. So don't forget the glutes. So quad activation and development. If you got any more specific questions or anything was confusing, let me know. But I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next time.